Hey, Chicago, what do you say? This is the CHGO Cubs Podcast. Oh, boy. We're back. Happy Monday night. If you're tuning in live with us here on CHGO Sports YouTube, hit the like button for us. That's the least you could do after the game we just watched. Hit the subscribe if you're new. Cody Delmindo and Patrick Norton, who does the CHGO Digest, if you didn't know, by the way.
Yep. Subscribe.
And then I bullied Brendan into joining us.
You did.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do is come on air and talk about this offense. But you know what, Cody? I love you too much. I support you too much to say no. So your bullying did work.
Well, you know, we can all just sit here and blame Luke for yet again going to Mexico for his, you know, I feel like he goes to Mexico every couple months. So, yeah.
He knows how to pick the times. That's what I will say.
He picked the perfect time because if I'm him, I'd rather be anywhere than sitting here talking about this team right now after the game we just watched, man.
Here we go again.
Yeah. So we're going to talk about the Cubs offense. We're going to talk about Kyle Hendricks having at least being the positive from this game, I think. Brendan, I know you and Jared talked a lot about the prospects that got promoted to AAA yesterday, but we'll touch on that some more. Ryan Herrera will join us from beautiful historic Wrigley Field, where I will probably ask him, did you enjoy watching that game? In which he will probably say something that's pretty normal, but I would want him to tell me something else like, no, I didn't. But, you know, it is what it is. So before we start, I do want to mention we started promoting our watch party next Monday. I think it's Cubs and Guardians. It's going to be in Hickory Hills at Primetime Bar and Grill. It's the event is on allchgo.com. It's free to come, just like all the rest of our watch parties. We've had fun at a lot of them. We've had some fun moments at them when the Cubs actually do win. We'll see if they can beat the Guardians. We'll see if we even care if they beat the Guardians, depending on how the rest of this week goes.
Well, they have a history of beating Cleveland, so they have that.
They do. Specifically on a Wednesday, a rainy day on Wednesday, yes. Like 8 years ago.
You know, how many years ago?
Like 8 years, right?
When they won the World Series?
Yeah, when they won the World Series. Yes.
Okay.
2016, I believe.
2016,
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Joey. Thank you, Joey. Appreciate it.
And then we've been promoting it's been on our website all season and we've talked about it, but because it is now officially August, our last takeover of the season, Cubs-Yankees, September 6th at Wrigley Field. It's a Friday day game, which is we usually do Friday 120 Club, but it is technically a takeover. And we're going to be sitting in the bleachers for this game. So I know I'm hoping and praying that Rizzo is back and like at least going to be there or something. Go there to shed a few tears for the tribute video at the very least. But yeah, if you want to see Rizzo potentially, come to our takeover and sit with us in the bleachers. It's all the information at allchgo.com.
Is that why you're so tan?
Yes, I am very tan because
you are unbelievably tan. I don't know if anyone's told you that recently, but you're just unbelievably tan.
Well, I've kind of noticed myself because like underneath the tank top, it's like a complete different like color compared to the rest of me.
Like as pale as Patrick next to you. And
I mean, here's what I don't understand. I am also at Friday 120 most of the time.
Why aren't you as tan? What kind of sunscreen are you putting on? SPF
because I protect
5,000?
I put on 50 because I protect my skin.
All right. Well, you're a smart guy, Patrick.
Thank you.
Yeah.
One might say I am not, but the sun likes me. I don't know. I had it was kind of tough early in the year, but now I'm just used to it. Anyway, all right, let's talk about it. Cubs strike out 14 times, lose 3-0 to the Minnesota Twins. And I would say, Brendan, Patrick, that the high that I potentially was on, well, not really potentially, but the high that I was on coming off winning 3 out of 4 against the Cardinals, I wouldn't say it's completely gone, but it's definitely fading. You know, you could still win the series, and I did ask to win the series, but the offense, you know, it's kind of a reality check tonight, man. Like, the offense played well for, like, the last 9-10 games, whatever, but then they play like this tonight, and you're like, this is the Chicago Cubs, the 2024 Chicago Cubs that I know all too well, and I wish I didn't know all too well.
Two players did not strike out tonight. Can't you name the two?
No, I can't.
PCA is one. Dansby Swanson is the other.
Wow.
Well, there you go. I will say if there's any one positive thing from this game is PCA continues to look good. I know he lost that ball in the light in center field, but continues to hit the ball hard, especially to the pole side. He's adopted that leg kick, which, like maybe Jose Bautista back in the early 2010s, may unlock something. And before you know it, PCA could be hitting 60 home runs.
60, yes. I think
it's possible.
Yeah, don't let me
40 of them will be inside the park.
Yeah, right.
Listen, you never know.
I will say this too, like Seiya was out tonight, and we just know this offense. Like they already are at a point where they don't have room for error, but like when one of your best hitters isn't in the lineup, and considering the players that are on this roster, not having Seiya in there, it's just the lineup has a different look to it. Like I feel like going into the game, I felt okay just because the offense had been playing well of late. But, say as much as I've, questioned how I should think about this guy, he's still one of your best players offensively, at least. And not having him in the lineup tonight's definitely hurt. And, thankfully, he sat out because of neck stiffness, Craig Counsell said. And he said that he should be back tomorrow. So hopefully, he's a difference tomorrow. But yeah, I mean, this offense just looks really bad when they don't have the three main guys, which to me is Seiya, Bellinger, or Happ.
I think that's what's kind of frustrating is that it's another example of a pitcher who does not have a track record or doesn't have a successful track record in the big leagues, looking like a Cy Young contender against the Cubs. I mean, David Festa comes into this game, I think, with a 6.6 ERA.
Yeah.
Throws 5 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 2 walks, 9 strikeouts on 82 pitches.
I love hearing that. I mean, the challenge with this team is what Cody alluded to just a few minutes ago. It's the lack of that impact bat to offset these outings that tend to occur for a team that lacks a true bona fide middle of the order bat. By the way, I know Seiya's out with neck stiffness. I'm in with COVID over here. I take no days off, okay? And I think Seiya probably hurt his neck on that pop-up to right field. He kind of awkwardly slid. I thought he hurt his oblique when he did that, but yeah, when Seiya's out, especially with a lineup that demands Seiya's 2023 second half to even stay within the periphery of this race, it magnifies a loss like that even in 1 or 2 games.
I personally, I know it's like a never-ending story with the Cubs offense looking bad against guys with whatever ERAs. The guy had what, 6 starts, you said?
6 starts. This was his 6th this year.
So he had 5 starts on the season.
Yeah.
And we've seen other guys like his very first 2 starts, he gave up a ton of runs. His last couple outings, he hadn't give up many. I will say this, he didn't go very deep in a lot of those outings either. And I think tonight probably was his best outing of his young career. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't even know where the guy was ranked in the Twins farm system. So it is what it is. But I'm willing to give the Twins a little bit more credit just because they've been so good this year. I mean, their pitching has been something I've watched from afar a little bit. Not to say that I'm some massive Twins fan, but like I felt like you had to win tonight because you got to face Pablo Lopez tomorrow, and then you got Joe Ryan on Wednesday, who are both very good. And it seems like they're just pumping out guys. Their bullpen, they had a bunch of guys throwing upper 90s. Like even after Festa came out, it didn't get any easier.
No, and you alluded to it there with the pumping upper 90s. It's if you face a reliever or a starter with even just an above average fastball, this team is not hitting it well.
Yeah.
Yeah, one of my best friends was a pitching coach for the Twins over the past 6 years, and uh, I've been hearing about these guys from him forever. So seeing, Festa wasn't necessarily new for me. And to your point, Cody, the Twins as a franchise has been one of the standout franchises from a pitching development perspective. And this is not surprising. To zoom in, and it's easy to do, especially when we talk about these singular games. To zoom in, this tends to happen when you get someone like Festa who's not seen, who has limited scouting reports, and many of these guys, actually probably all of these guys, have seen Festa only for the first time tonight. This tends to happen where Festa feels good, finds his groove, takes advantage of a team who's never seen him, and before you know it, he only gives up 2 hits, and we're talking about this team shut out yet again. So it is frustrating. The hope is going forward that these shutouts and these feeble offensive showings are reduced over time, but it's the same story over and over and over again. And quite frankly, over the past 5 years, as Patrick said, I feel like as if we've been talking about this, where a team, any Cubs team, is facing a pitcher they've never faced or has sparingly faced, and they can't put up more than a handful of hits. It's extremely frustrating.
Yeah. I think someone in the chat said something. I think it was James talking about the umpires. Said he was yelling at the umpires. There were definitely some bad calls. I'm not going to sit here and blame the umpires. I know when people hate that, but
I will.
They were, or this guy in particular was horrendous at certain points in this game, though. And I think at the beginning of the game on the marquee broadcast, it was slated that he is more pitcher friendly. He kept calling calling balls inside. That were balls, like he kept calling them strikes. Like he consistently was bad. Whether you want to say guys have to adjust to how he's calling the game or not, balls are balls and strikes are strikes. I don't know how else to really say it. That's just how I'm always going to feel. Like this, I don't know how many times we have the conversation every year, but like challenge, ball strikes, challenge, the ball strikes challenge system is absolutely needed at like a ridiculous level at this point, for considering how much I've really noticed it this year. Again, not the reason they lost tonight, but the home plate umpire to me was just horrendous in terms of just what actually is a ball and what actually is a strike.
I mean, every umpire sucks. They are the most worthless job in this entire country. By 2050, every single umpire will be outdated, replaced by a system that's already better as is. I'm sick and tired of talking about umpires. I'm sick and tired of seeing high elevated breaking pitches go well above the zone, be called for strikes, and screw over 20, 21-year-olds who are developing their plate approach. Sick and tired of it. I can't stand behind this for the life of me. I don't understand why this hasn't been accelerated to improve the quality of the game and get rid of all this ire that we see on a day-to-day basis. Shame on baseball. Shame on Manfred. I'm sick of talking about this, and I'm working myself up. Gosh.
I'm really good at doing that to you.
So it was Tony Rendazzo tonight. Tomorrow, I think it'll be Phil Cuzzy, which isn't good. Like that's even worse.
All right. Well, because of that, maybe you should all bet on the Twins tomorrow, to hedge. You know what I mean? You can do that on Circus Sportsbook. They have tight money line splits, as one likes to say. They like to say, actually. Games strive to be a -110 split on the Circus Sports menu, unlike other sports books, which may use a -115 or -120 splits. Circus Sports keeps as little money as possible on large market bets, especially compared to other books. They don't limit players based on their winnings either. Every player has the same limits, unlike other books who do limit winning players. And they encourage bettors to download and explore all sports betting apps available to compare the lines from each sports book. There are real people behind the Circus Sports brand also who resolve issues in a timely fashion, unlike other books who use chatbots. All aspects of the app are being run by the same team that runs the main Circus Sports book in Las Vegas. So download the Circus Sports app right now at circusports.com/Illinois-app to get started today. They also hang out with us at every Friday 120 Club.
They do.
And, they're great partners. I appreciate them very much, okay? And while you're on the app, head on over, get yourself a nice ice-cold Blue Moon, like Patrick, for example. And, it helps take these types of games a lot easier, in my personal opinion. You know, some beers can say they're brewed for baseball, but only Blue Moon is brewed by baseball. Beer and baseball just go together, and no beer goes together than the one that was literally born in a ballpark. Blue Moon was created at Coors Field in Denver, Colorado. It's the natural choice for opening day and all season long. Someone in the chat earlier asked if I did a beer bat after they won 3 out of 4. I think her name was Carrie at the beginning of the show as we were the countdown was starting. Carrie, to let you know, I did do a beer bat. The video is on my Instagram account or on my Twitter account if you want to go check it out. But Blue Moon, all right. It would have. I had all kinds of Blue Moon this weekend thanks to the Cubs not really being bad until tonight. So shout out to Blue Moon. A new baseball season deserves a bold, unique beer from its refreshing flavor with Valencia orange peel for a subtle sweetness and hints of coriander. Blue Moon Belgian style wheat ale is one of a kind beer that it's made brighter. It's carefully crafted and full flavored with refreshing notes and a smooth, creamy finish. It's brewed by baseball to give you a dose of nostalgia and get you excited for the new season. It's not just another beer. It's a whole different experience. Why strike out with the same old beer when you can get something one of a kind? It's bold flavor, bright explosion of color, and iconic orange slice ritual, guaranteed a one-of-a-kind beer experience, perfect for spring weather, best served with its signature orange garnish to showcase its beautiful hazy color. A beer this good only comes around once in a Blue Moon, but you can enjoy it all season long. Bring the ballpark to you with Blue Moon Belgian style wheat ale. It's a one-of-a-kind every time. Get Blue Moon delivered by visiting get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO to see your delivery options. That's get.bluemoonbeer.com/CHGO. Blue Moon, made brighter, celebrate responsibly. Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado.
I'll just mention Blue Moon, big partner with our watch parties.
Oh, yeah, yes.
If you were at Miller's Ale House at the last one, I bought everybody their first Blue Moon.
You did.
Come out to Hickory Hills, prime time.
Absolutely. And Patrick will buy you a beer. Yes.
Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. Don't hold me to it.
We're also doing a watch along for Wednesday's game right here in our studio. It's going to be me, Jared, and I think Kevin Wells. We're going to have plenty of Blue Moon because it's sponsored by Blue Moon. Shout out to them. I love Blue Moon. It gets me through watching the 2024 Cubs. And I'm sure that's the only reason that Brendan is able to survive through the trying times he's going through right now.
That's exactly right. It's basically medicine, I don't know if it's in their, their slogan or whatever. I don't even know if it's legal for me to say, but it is a good cure for certain diseases. Let's put it that way.
Right. Okay. Let's talk about, I guess, one of the few good things. And I feel like that was Kyle Hendricks tonight. 6 innings, 2 earned, 5 strikeouts. Brendan, as we've given you credit in the past, I know Corey did particularly maybe 2 or 3 Sunday shows ago. You were very, I wouldn't say you were loud, but you were very
well, it's because you came on the podcast that day. You're right about that. For some reason, I see your face and I just start going off. I don't know what it is.
Rile you up, man. But I just remember, I remember a few Sunday shows ago, Corey kind of set you up, bringing up, everything that you guys talked about Kyle Hendricks back in probably late April, early May. Everyone ready to DFA the guy. And even since June, yeah, he's had some bad starts still, but he's definitely regressed positively. And, they lost tonight, but it sure as hell wasn't his fault, man. 6 innings, 2 earned runs. You got to score runs for the guy. A lot of people months ago thought this guy was finished, legitimately would retire after the season. And he might, if no one wants to offer him a contract. I don't know what the future with him and the Cubs entails, but
assistant pitching coach.
Right. But he's certainly showing that he can still do it. I mean, this Twins lineup's pretty good. Royce Lewis, they showed on the broadcast. I know he hasn't had as many at-bats as most of the qualified players in the league, but for the season thus far, he's been really good for them. And, they've had their offense overall has been pretty good, I would say. And for him to shut them down, basically, gave up a solo homer and then, I felt like only allowing the 1 run the very first run of the game was a positive considering I think it was the first two hitters that got on that inning, and he only gave up one run that inning. So, you conceded a run in a way. Like, I don't know. I don't know what else to really say about the guy. Just like every time I feel like I'm way out on him, he reels me back in. I'm not to say that he should be your second or third best starter on a team. I'm just saying that, like, he clearly still has something left in the tank, man.
The stuff still looks good. Go ahead, Patrick.
Well, that's the thing is that it's not an impressive number now, nor will it be.
Mm-hmm.
But his 6.6 ERA right now is the lowest that he's had after a start all year long. So, like, it's trended in a better direction. Obviously, not where you want it to be, but he ended April with a 12 ERA. It's gotten better, and it's okay to admit that.
Right.
His stuff looks similar to what it's been over the past few years. When Corey and I were talking about him back in April, and when you came on the show, Cody, that was the foundation of the conversation, is trying to understand why the results weren't coming if the changeup looked good and the fastball looked as if it were last season when he did have results. So he goes to the bullpen, comes back, and he develops a curveball, which he uses 10, 15, 20% of the time during games. And that seems to increase his margin for error or change how he goes through certain guys and through the order multiple times. It's given him just another dimension to add. He's been great. He's been relatively great, as Patrick was saying. 6.6 ERA is not what you want and not what you wanted to slot him in as, but when the peak of his worst was a 12 ERA and now it's down almost to under 6, it does speak volume to the changes he has made. We only have about 50 games left in the season. For him, it's going to be about 8, 9 more starts. He's playing for his next contract. He's still a young guy in this league for a pitcher of his repertoire and his status. He very well could pitch multiple years if he shows teams, including the Cubs, that he's capable of doing it. Maybe the Cubs end up Kershawing him, bringing him back 1 year at a time, paying him $6 million, kind of like a league minimum type deal for a veteran if they want, however they define that. He's pitching for his career, and he's proving that he still may have some left in the tank so far.
How many wins does Hector Neris have, Brendan?
Well, he's the major league relief winning pitcher and maybe one of the best winning Cubs relievers of all time. He reminds me of how good Antonio Alfonseca was back in the day. Both as all-time great Cubs relievers.
Well, I asked because Dan in the chat said he's 3-10. He does point out his 6.6 ERA, which Patrick already basically said, like, yeah, it was really bad at the end of April when he's brought down. I'm not even here to say that, like, he's back to 2016 form. I'm just acknowledge the fact that he's been better since I would say the start of June. And honestly, they wouldn't be in this position, which I know we don't want to be in this position, but they would be in a significantly worse situation than if he didn't step up when Jordan Wicks got hurt and with Ben Brown going down and all that too. Like, depending on how you want the team to be win-loss record right now based off how the trade deadline went or whatever, but
go ahead. It'll sound like a stray here, and it kind of is, but you have to account for health of the rest of your team, whether that's in the majors or in the farm, and then you also have to account for the developmental process. You're not going to rush anybody up to take Hendricks' spot, and that leaves you with: would you rather watch Kyle Hendricks every fifth day go 4 to 5 or maybe even tonight 6 innings, or would you rather watch Dan Straley?
Yeah.
And the answer to me is Kyle Hendricks every fifth day. I'm fine with that.
Yeah, and to Nick Matterum's point, his stuff looks good. His comment was, quote, his stuff looks like the last 3 years. It looks good. That's sarcasm at what I just said, in case you guys didn't know. Other than plopping 80 mile per hours in the heart of the plate, he's not what he was a couple seasons ago. When the stuff looks good, it's relevant. The stuff he's showing now is exactly the same stuff he showed last season when he was able to deserve the contract he got this season. So that's always been the question, is why is he not getting the results? Is it randomness? Probably not. There's probably more to it, but the Cubs are getting their answer. And although he's not been good overall, he's been one of the main Cubs starting pitchers and a stabilizing force over the past 6 weeks amidst injuries to Javier Assad, who many were calling to replace Hendricks and kick Hendricks off the team. He's been a stabilizing force with Ben Brown, whose career seems actually quite in jeopardy, to be frank, with a neck injury that few pitchers have ever had before. That sounds very concerning. When a Cubs young starting pitching staff is going through significant injuries, including Jordan Wick's forearm strain and Cade Horton's lat strain, it requires guys like Kyle to step up. And he's done that. And he's looked better with a new curveball. So we can always dial in on the semantics of him looking good, but the reality is, since he's come back to the rotation, he's been what the Cubs need because all the other depth pieces have gone down to injuries.
Right. Yeah, I mean, again, I'm reading some of the chat, and I'm just like, we're not even really trying to fight with y'all. Like, we understand that where he is at this point in his career, but again, just acknowledge the fact that he has been better, and he is not the reason they lost tonight.
That's the thing, is that
and also
tonight's a bad example for the chat,
right? And also the home run he gave up. That was, I mean, was it a curveball on the outside edge that he somehow just
cutting changeup?
Was it maybe he left it up a little too much? I couldn't believe the guy actually hit it up.
It was up a little bit.
Yeah. So it's not like he left it over the heart of the plate. That's all I'm saying. And again, I understand.
Are we having this discussion if the Cubs score 7 or even 4?
Right. No, that's the thing. And that's what I've said all season about this team, is if this team could have some sort of consistency on offense, I don't think Hendricks would be 3-10. All right. And, you want to go by win-loss record, you could probably look at Justin Steele and Shota Imanaga and wonder why those records look like they do too. All of them have had starts where they do what Kyle Hendricks did tonight, and they take the loss because they don't know how to score runs. So, this is what it is, man.
Hector Neris is 8-4 with a 3.6 ERA. He's having a terrific
Put him in the
season.
rotation.
Put him in the rotation with. Yeah. So, anyway, yeah, I thought Pearson looked decent as well. How do you feel about Pearson?
He's a project. He's a project. I mean, we all see the stuff. He throws upper 90s, maxes out low hundreds, unique shapes on his secondaries. He's a project. He's one of many projects the Cubs have had, and one of many projects the Cubs will continue to have. Will he work out? Some do, some don't. The Julian Merriweathers work out, and sometimes other experiments tend to fizzle away, like Daniel Norris, who you guys always remind me of in the past, all these former Blue Jays. So it is what it is. We'll see. I'm optimistic. Whenever you have a reliever who has this type of good stuff, it always piques your interest, and it has piqued the Cubs' interest. But you do have to be realistic in your expectations, and he has to improve his command.
Yeah, I would agree with that. What about you?
I'm cool with him. From what I've seen from him, he either does really well or hits somebody in the head, and so that's pretty interesting.
He's done well since his debut. He's definitely done that. All right. We got a couple ads here, and then I kind of want to talk about Isaac Paredes since the chat is, and then Ryan Herrera is going to join us here in a little bit. It's grilling season, folks. Get your pork, all right? The summer is almost over, so you need to get in on this, all right? People who are active need more protein than the average American. In fact, the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, Dietitians of Canada, and the American College of Sports Medicine recommend 1.2 to 2.0 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day for athletes, depending on training. 1 3-ounce serving of pork provides 23 grams of high-quality protein that can help active individuals build and preserve muscle. The International Society of Sports and Nutrition recommends that people who are involved in a general fitness program who are interested in optimizing their health eat low fat, high-quality sources of protein, which include lean cuts of pork, Patrick, all right? Elevate your protein game with lean pork, a powerhouse of natural goodness. Savor the flavor, savor the gains, and celebrate any occasion by enjoying the best pork produced by Illinois pig farmers. From your sausage and bacon for breakfast to pulled pork or juicy chops hot off the grill, it's an entire season dedicated to pork and the people behind the product, paid for by the Illinois pork producers. Generations of commitment. Also, Luke keeps asking me when I'm going to wear the FOCO overalls to Wrigley. And maybe September when Rizzo comes back for the Yankees takeover, maybe I will, because I feel like the weather won't be nearly as hot. I would say Friday was scorching hot. It was the hottest day.
Friday was humid and uncomfortable.
Yes. All right. Maybe I will finally wear those overalls from FOCO to Wrigley in September. All right. Get fitted out in the best sports gear around: hoodies, shoes, signs, bobbleheads, and everything in between. Going to basketball or hockey games, baseball games. Show off your love with team-branded friendship bracelets. Whether it is jackets, beachwear, or even overalls, like I said, there is something for fans for almost every occasion. Set decorations, we got like Clark the Cub here on the table. We got a Hayden Wisniewski one. I know we have others for other teams here in Chicago too. We always like to point out the Matt Schwarmer one that came out in 2022. Brandon, I know you had a big fascination with Matt Schwarmer back like a couple of years ago.
Oh, that's Ryan's guy, actually.
Oh, is that Ryan's guy?
He's the one who wanted to write that story.
All I know is they have a Matt Schwarmer Cubs bobblehead, and it would be an absolute collector's item.
If you read the story we did, the question was, his slider is rating as the worst in the league, but why has it been so good? we could not figure it out.
I was stunned when he was DFA'd. Heartbroken.
Yeah, I definitely poured a Blue Moon out for him, Anyway, check out fogo.com or click the link in the description below. And for all non-presale items, use promo code CHGO10 for 10% off. Okay. I didn't have this in the rundown, Patrick, but Great. Based off the chat and based off, I think it's on social media too. And I've been making a massive joke about it because that's how I do things. But Isaac Paredes, 3 for 27? 3 for 27. Not a great night offensively. Great night defensively. He had a couple nice defensive plays at third base. But the bat has been slow. I think last week he had a game against the Reds where he hit 2 doubles. He had a hit yesterday, so those are his 3 hits since he became a Chicago Cub for the second time. I guess the question here is, are we worried about his bat?
No.
Let me finish. Considering since the beginning of July when he was even with the Rays still, it hasn't been good.
Taking that into account, the answer is still no.
Oh.
And I will tell you that I appreciate the fact that the defense rebounded tonight. Because I feel like there is a tendency among professional baseball players where if you're slumping, you can kind of the mentality can shift and then suddenly you're not doing well in the field. When you rebound in the field, it feels like the good at bats are around the corner. And that's what I'm hoping kind of happens here.
Yeah. Brennan?
27 plate appearances. It's a few weeks. If we say, I'm concerned about Isaac Paredes over 27 plate appearances, then you're even sicker than us doing this show after the Cubs got shut out yet again. Okay. It's only been 3 weeks. Let's see what happens. The concern that I think is fair, even though it has been 3 weeks.
With the Cubs? It's been 1 week with the Cubs?
It's been 1 week with the Cubs?
Yeah.
COVID messes with my brain. I feel like he's been on the Cubs.
Technically not even a week because he was traded to the Cubs last Tuesday and then he didn't play the next game. I don't believe. He
was traded
No, that is correct.
On Monday.
Was it Monday? Okay, so he didn't play. He didn't play Tuesday, and then he played. His first game with the Cubs was last Wednesday. So it hasn't even been a week.
I've been watching Isaac play for the Cubs since he was 17. I remember him back in Mesa way back then, before your time, even maybe, Patrick. I've been watching him for a long time. Yeah. Are you the youngest person on our staff?
No. I'm No, I'm 25.
Emma definitely has to be
25.
the youngest. Yeah.
Man, you guys are babies. One
Yeah,
day you'll
we
get
are.
gray hairs like us. But
But it won't
I'm
look
not
as good
worried.
as your hair. Yeah.
Yeah, Brendan spends all of his time on the West Coast, so he's actually 55, but just looks really good.
Whoa, it's not but false claims out there, Patrick. Lot of sunscreen, just like you. How about that?
Yeah.
I'll say this just to acknowledge what a lot of the YouTube chat and what everyone is saying on social media. I mean,
Trade on Sunday. There we are. My bad.
I'll say this. Paredes his at bats. I feel like he's giving good at bats. I think Craig Counsell or someone mentioned his 12 pitch at bat that he had, I want to say on Friday, that kind of ignited their offense a little bit, in which the Cubs ended up winning that game. He had a hit and a walk yesterday. Tonight wasn't great. I will say that, but no one in the Cubs offense looked good tonight. So whatever. I understand a large majority of people are going to argue about this probably for the rest of the season and into the offseason because everyone, and me included, me, you, Brennan, and Corey for sure were Christopher Morel's biggest defenders on this podcast. But because he was so beloved by a lot of fans, I think it's just something that people are going to continue to talk about. And I don't care that Morel hit 2 homers in 2 games. He struck out multiple times in multiple games since then as well, and he had 2 errors in 1 game for the Rays as well, and just this past week. So the Rays are even getting a little bit of what we got to deal with Morel this year as well. I've said this as well, that I think Morel has the higher ceiling with the bat. But I sat here and talked about the underlying metrics for him plenty the last 3.5 months, and people didn't want to hear it. And now people are talking about Paredes' underlying metrics and saying like, oh, this guy's really bad. And to me, it's very funny when people want to shape their own narratives. I get it. If we're 2 months down the road and he's not hitting, I totally get it. But 27 at bats, plate appearances, whatever, freaking slow your roll, people. That's all I can say.
I feel like it's the same group of people that are also giving up on Craig Counsell.
Yeah.
120.
Well, and it's not even just our YouTube chat. It's been all over social media too. And that's why on social media for me, I just kind of turn it into a joke. Like every time Paredes makes a great defensive play, Cubs win the trade. Every time he grounds out to short, Rays win the trade. Like whatever. That's where I'm at. Like I feel like we have to wait it out a little bit. Like I still think that the trade could potentially work out for both teams because at the end of the day, I still think the Cubs move Morel because they couldn't find a position for him to play. And as we've already seen with him with the Rays, it hasn't worked out very well defensively for him over there yet either. And if we're going to judge it after not even a week, like a lot of people have been, like you have to acknowledge that he still has the same flaws over there for them too. So I think that Paredes being competent defensively and, again, giving you decent at bats in terms of working pitch counts, making contact, not striking out. I think the hits will come eventually. I think he's still just getting kind of settled in here. And also, like I said, he had been struggling since the beginning of July. So we'll see when he gets out of the slump. Hopefully he does. So that way people stop talking about this like whole trade thing because like it's really annoying at this point.
It gets viewed, and I understand why, as a 1v1 vacuum decision. With the context involved, it makes sense from both sides. If you want to look at the 1v1 vacuum discussion, Morel has a higher ceiling. It's obvious. He's got top 5 overall bat speed. The metrics you talked about were very encouraging early in the year. He's someone, if it all clicks, is one of the better hitters in the league. The question is, how likely is it that it all clicks in time to line up with this Cubs competitive window? The Cubs have every one of their top hitting prospects in AAA. There's going to be limited runway. at some point in the next year and a half, they need to have some certainty. They can't go in with an experiment at every single position. We've already seen that play out this year in a disastrous fashion. So I understand Jed's perspective. I'm going to sacrifice the higher ceiling with the lower ceiling. May cause some concern for fans, but the defense at third base, the defense backup at second base, the unique pull side profile, the very unique swing decision and contact profile is more likely to yield productive value for the team. And the sacrifice is that 40 plus home run caliber guy in Morel, but you may get that elsewhere. And you may get the opportunity to fully explore that possibility in a different position because you don't have to keep experimenting and risking that at third base. I understand it, but I also do share some of the overall angst with letting someone like Morel go. But unfortunately, I will probably stand by this. I believe the Cubs are a little bit too late on a few of their decisions and testing guys out of certain positions or making 40-man decisions, which I do push back on. And even Ballesteros is one of the examples where I don't quite see the value on the 40-man versus promoting the development of someone like Ballesteros right now. But these are the decisions the Cubs front office makes, and it will determine if they're going to be with this Cubs team in the next year and a half.
I think you make a good point about, the guys who just got promoted to AAA on top of the fact of Ballesteros and Owen Casey. Like, I don't know how these guys were going to be able to exist with Morel on the roster. I think that's why them not being able to find Morel a position is a big reason why I think they moved him.
Craig Counsell historically does not use a singular DH. He's never been the type to just have one guy in the lineup in that role every night all year. It has been a rotational thing, whether it's for rest or for whatever reason, or like now with Cody Bellinger, where he physically cannot play in the field, or at least he comfortably cannot play in the field.
Right.
And so you still want his bat in the lineup. Obviously didn't really do much tonight, but still, you want that bat in the lineup.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to have that bat in the lineup. You wouldn't be able to do that if you had Morel as your everyday DH, or at least he would be on the bench or potentially a liability in the field.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, well.
It's a very, I know this isn't going to be the last time we talk about it. It's just, I think a lot of fans just don't fully understand the reasoning behind it. So trying to explain it the best we can, at least from our perspective. I think I think it's fair what we're saying. It's not like, again, I know for sure, Brennan, and Corey were very much still believers of Morel. We'd come in here and get shit on by the YouTube chat every single day whenever we would use his underlying metrics as a defense mechanism. It's
But to be clear, again, looking at a player individually and making those claims as we did that we were confident in Morel does not mean it's certain it happens. It's just the likelihood it happens is not unrealistic. And you know how I fan. I always look for the more extreme outcomes. I'm dying for the Cubs to get a 50-plus home run guy, and Morel has the talent to do that. But with all these discussions we've ever had, I don't like risking things. I want the Cubs to be a 95-win team. So those experiments we're talking about, I need to happen in the background of a Rizzo Bryant middle of the order. It's not sufficient for this team to go into the year expecting Morel to produce like that as their cleanup hitter. That was a risk that was too much for the 2024 Cubs, undeniably. And again, it may cost Jed Hoyer his job, those fringe decisions. I don't want to get that confused that it was appropriate for the Cubs to go into the season doing that. But at the same time, his top tier talent is extremely interesting and exactly why an organization like the Rays made their risk in giving up Paredes, even at that cheaper arbitration price, because they, like many other fans, believe in that profile, and that's the gamble they wanted to make.
Well, that's kind of the thing, and if you look back at 2016, talk about risk. Your biggest risk that year was arguably putting Kyle Schwarber in left field.
Mm-hmm.
That was like the only unproven aspect of the defensive
going
lineup
into the year.
Going into the year,
yeah.
Sure, that ends immediately, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Replaced by
you can even say going beyond that, though.
Going beyond that, sure. But then you look at Schwarber getting hurt, and you had a backup plan.
Mm-hmm.
If Morel didn't work out defensively, it was, well, then, sorry, Cody. It was Miles Mastrobuoni's going to have to be a defensive replacement, or David Bodie now would have to be a defensive replacement.
Right.
Like there were things that didn't make sense in a long-term season where it's like there would be no expectation for this team to do well if Morel didn't do well because the risk was so big.
And that was reflected in their win projection of 84. And we heard Jad say to local radio that they have better internal projections, but in reality, there's no good projection system. Every single projection system sucks, like truly, absolutely sucks. The amount of error, even if you improve it, is still not enough to make anyone confident who's, in data science. So the way to kind of offset that, as we've talked about now for, I believe, a year and a half, is to go into the season like obviously the Braves. The Braves right now have their entire team decimated by the injury bug. We have Acuna breaking his kneecap yet again, or whatever the hell happened. And they have pitching injuries where they just had Max Fried come back from a nerve issue. But they, even with their worst percentile outcome, are still likely a playoff contender. And that's what I want the Cubs to eventually reach, is when they do get unlucky, which there is an argument that did happen this year, they're still in playoff contention. But the Cubs' unluckiness or misfortune, say not producing consistently, Bellinger's injuries not producing consistently, it cost them another season. And it cost the Ricketts dozens of millions of dollars and the attainment of new fans. It's been a huge miss and unacceptable by the front office to go into the year, being optimistic about maybe their internal projection system being 87, 88 wins. That's not enough. You got to be around 94, 95.
You make a good point about the Braves. Like, their offense has taken a massive step back this year, yet they still are, still the number one team in the wild card right now. I know the Phillies have emerged as like the best team in the National League, and they've had a lot of good go their way. Alec Boehm has, been one of their like bonuses. Like he was already a solid player, but he's emerged as, a star.
Yeah.
I mean, he started the All-Star game. And he hit a homer at Wrigley when the Phillies came to town. Like I remember whenever the Phillies fans like booed him or whatever on the field, and now he's got to a point where he's a star. But when you have the stars like they do, it allows a guy to develop the way he has. And we can sit here and talk about the Cubs not having stars and this and that like we have. I feel like every single day for the last 2.5 years of doing this podcast, at least for me. But like that is where the Cubs need to get to, where they can find a way to still develop while also, putting a winning product out there. And it's easier said than done. That's just the way I look at it,
Yeah. Well, listen, we don't follow the other team's fine, intricate moves like we do with the Cubs, so it'd be stupid to say that we do. But we do obviously see what the Phillies have done, and their way of operating with Dombrowski is risking more money in singular players. Of course, that means spending. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber in a high AAV, Nick Castellanos, who may not have worked out, recently Aaron Nola. But in Bryce Harper's case, we've seen the flexibility it's created. A $25 million annual average value. Bryce Harper was signed to be an outfielder, but because of Hoskins' injuries and because of his injuries himself, he's now their first baseman. Kyle Schwarber similarly was their left fielder at the time, and the context changed, and he was even tried at first base prior to be coming over to the Phillies. Now he's their DH, but they were able to lock up at least some assurity in value, and then it gave him the ability to take those risks and experiments that we're talking about. The Cubs don't have any of that. Every single player you can argue on their team is an experiment. And when you have that uncertainty, it means you don't have the likelihood. And those experiments, more times than not, end up failing. That's just a reality of baseball.
I will say this one experiment they have that I'm really excited about, and you kind of touched on it in the first segment, but PCA, I mean, he's really starting to grow on me. The offense,
Yeah.
like you said, like he's been one of the few good things. So I guess to end with that, because Ryan is here and we're going to have to kick you, Brendan, but I wanted to end it with, PCA seems like a experiment that perhaps might work out for the Cubs.
He's surprising me. He's exceeding my expectations. I know the numbers aren't quite there yet, but the signs look good. So I am happy about that.
All right, man. Well, thank you for joining us. Thank you, for taking, I guess, Luke's spot, whatever. Like, he had to go to Mexico. You stepped in while having COVID. I mean, credit to you, man.
I take no days off. Even if I had a sore neck, I would not take a day off. I'd be batting cleanup for you guys. Just saying.
Might as well be Cal Ripken Jr. for podcasting. That's
right. I don't miss. Although I actually may miss this upcoming Sunday, which you should talk to Corey about. Anyway, I'll see you guys later.
Have a good one, man.
See ya.
All right. Well, let's welcome him, the guy, the man, the myth, the legend, big of me to say, Ryan Herrera at beautiful historic Wrigley Field.
Patrick could be lying. It looks like he might be in an office depot.
I was going to say, Patrick, does he look like he's in a stall or does he look like he's in an office?
He's in a trough right now.
I'm back in my stall. I'm back in my stall over here at Wrigley.
He doesn't have the Reds ballpark as the background this time.
No, that was a special occasion. That was a road occasion.
Well, you're here now. I guess this game kind of sucks. So I haven't forgot. You posted the pictures at getting the Skyline Chili. I don't believe we talked about this. Did we talk about this? We haven't.
We have not yet.
So what would you rate the Skyline Chili?
I think I gave it like a 3.5 or 4. Like, not the absolute worst thing I've ever eaten.
Out of 5 or 10, Ryan?
Out of 10.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't good. No, don't get me wrong, it wasn't good. The way. I guess what I got it was the spaghetti, and it's not like chili, it's like meat sauce, which is a little odd. But then they pack a bunch of shredded cheese, pile it on top of it. And so just to get to the chili, you got to go through 3 forkfuls of shredded cheese. So if you're not a big cheese person, that just ruins the meal right there to begin with. And then I definitely docked it a couple points just because if I'm a big city or wanting to be a big city and I'm wanting to be known for some food, Skyline Chili is not the food I'm picking to be known for. It's really not. Or just Cincinnati style chili. That's not what I'm picking to be known for. Even St. Louis, the St. Louis pizza sucks, but at least they have toasted ravioli. Be known for that. Be proud of that. I just don't know why Cincinnati
Indianapolis before you had to stop?
Was that again?
Did you make it to Indianapolis before you had to stop, or how soon did you have to stop? Okay,
I was right outside Indianapolis. I just had to put gas though. It wasn't because I
sure. That's what
anything.
They all say. No one wants to admit to using the beefy gas.
As we say, don't let the facts get in the way of a good story.
Yeah.
No, but so I just don't understand why Cincinnati people are so proud of Skyline Chili. I won't. If I ever go back to Cincinnati, I won't be returning to Skyline Chili. I don't think. I think it's a one time.
Would we say Cincinnati's blue collar? They have a lot of pride just about it in general. Would you say that about Cincinnati?
Sure.
Okay. Maybe that's why. Maybe they really think it sucks too. It's kind of like us with when we talk about our pizza and deep dish isn't. We don't consider deep dish a Chicago style. We say tavern style is. But all the tourists and stuff, they think. Everyone outside of Chicago thinks that we think deep dish is Chicago style, I don't know. Whatever.
To be fair, they are both Chicago style. It's just the style we generally eat is not deep dish, it's the tavern stuff. But they are both Chicago style pizzas.
Fair enough.
Which I think
should have worded it better there. Yeah. Okay, I guess we can talk about this game. Craig Counsell. We have 6 minutes. Craig Counsell, I'll set the over-under at a minute 45. Is that how long did he speak?
It was under. It was solidly under a minute 45. It's what do you say about this game, right? Kyle Hendricks gave you 6 innings, 2 earned runs. The bullpen, I think, they got the one run off Pearson at the end of the game, but outside of that was overall solid, and the offense got 4 hits and 2 walks, right? Like, there's nothing you can say as far as, like, just they didn't do anything offensively today. And, like, it was funny because the second question he was asked was about Kyle Hendricks, and he basically went, Kyle Hendricks he pitched well, or it was a good start, but we didn't score enough runs. Like, immediately took it back to the offense, which is, like, that's the name of the game. Kyle Hendricks, I know Luke's – I sent that tweet into Slack. Luke's tweet is wrong. He would not have 20 scoreless innings if they took him out after 4. So, Luke, bad take, Luke. It's a bad take.
He's too busy in Mexico. He could care less right now.
Yeah, drinking mojitos down in Mexico. But, yeah, like Kyle gave you a quality start. His 3rd quality start of the year, I think, something like that. And just he did more than probably you expected him to do against a good team in Minnesota. And yeah, the offense just didn't give him any support. That's the game right there. Just they got shut out 11th time on the season, I want to say. So yeah, that's
games at this point, but yeah.
Yeah.
I guess Bellinger still can't play in the field. Seiya sat out with stiff neck. Like, it was good to see Hap back in there. I believe you tweeted that Seiya should be back in the lineup tomorrow, according to Counsell.
Yeah, Seiya's dealing with the neck soreness. I guess he's been the last couple of days has had it, and I think Counsell said that he was initially going to have Seiya sit yesterday, Sunday, the series finale against the Cardinals. But when Hap, obviously, from jumping into the wall, Saturday was a late scratch, Sunday. And so scratched Hap, kept Seiya in the lineup, then gave Seiya the day today. He's expected, Counsell anticipates that he'll be back in the lineup tomorrow. As far as Bellinger, like, obviously he's hitting. The middle finger, the fracture is still, I would say, sort of affecting him, but not to the point where he doesn't feel like he can hit through it. And I think overall he's hit pretty well since he did come back from the IL last week. So that's a positive sign. But as far as throwing, both him and Counsell said today is when he's throwing, the way Counsell said it was like when he's throwing with intent is when he feels it on the middle finger. I think they're playing catch every day, and he's lengthening the distance is lengthened every day. But it's just when he's throwing with intent that he's feeling it still. And so they're slowly progressing. Counsell said he won't see him in the field this series. And I'm just going to take it day by day, continue to gauge the pain tolerance and what he feel like he can deal with. But, for now, Bellinger's still going to be DHing for the foreseeable future until we get a new update.
Do you have anything?
Not really. No? I mean, that's just kind of how it works. And where would Christopher Morel be playing right now?
I didn't see anything on social media, but I know last night Matt Shaw, James Triantos, and Kevin Alcantara promoted to Iowa. Didn't know if maybe even Craig pregame might have said anything about these guys. Anyone talk about their promotions before the game?
Yeah, Craig was asked about it, but kind of answered in more of a general sense, just saying, prospects being moved up means they have success moving up to the next level, especially when it's the level, right below the big leagues, AAA. And to him, the way he kind of looks at it is that it signals depth as far as your position player group goes. Obviously, these are prospects and stuff, but when they're right there, knocking on the door for Jed Hoyer and the rest of the front office, it signals like you may have some new options as far as your depth goes. So, will they have their top 6 prospects, depending where you're looking? I think I would say MLB Pipeline has it. Like, their top 6 prospects are now in AAA, and they're young and on the cusp of the big leagues. And that's as far as the organization goes, but definitely for Craig Counsell, that's a sign that the organization's, the big league team is struggling, obviously, this season, but the system and the organization seems to be in a healthier place, and with prospects who, at the very least, you can look at as depth that can potentially impact the big league roster if needed. I think that's a good way to look at it. Is these guys just got promoted to AAA, so they're not going to be impacting the ball club relatively soon, but Potentially, if needed, they can, and then that's just kind of how Greg Counsell looks at it.
All right. Well, yeah, like you said, this game stunk. I will say, like I said, it was kind of my high I had going into tonight. Not fully all the way down. Still got a chance to win the series, but we'll see if they bounce back tomorrow. The offense played well up until tonight, so we'll see if it bounces back tomorrow. It's going to be a tough task against
Pablo Lopez tomorrow?
Yeah, Pablo Lopez, and they got Joe Ryan on Wednesday. But Shota, we got Shota Day tomorrow. Buy our shirt. The least you could do is buy our shirt, all right? So, yeah, we'll see y'all tomorrow. Thanks for checking out CHGO Cubs Podcast. Post-game, after the game tomorrow, right here, CHGO Sports YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button on your way out. And, me, Jared, and Kevin tomorrow. See y'all then.